Hey guys, welcome back to From Poop to Gold. My name is Keith Grover, the podcast producer. Today I'm speaking with Joshua Chin, the CEO of Kronos Agency. He's going to give us his tips on email marketing and copywriting. Let's watch that intro and jump right in.
Every business is unique.
But the ups and downs we experience as we launch and run our businesses are pretty similar.
We're Harmon Brothers, the team behind Pooping Unicorns and other weird but successful video ads you've probably seen.
We help businesses grow through unforgettable video marketing, and we're no stranger to tricky situations. In fact, we embrace them.
The goal of this podcast is to show how your crappy circumstances could be the golden opportunity that leads to your next success.
You're watching Poop to Gold.
Welcome back to From Poop to Gold. My name is Keith Grover. I'm the podcast producer here at Harmon Brothers. Today we have a very special guest. Today we have Joshua Chin from Kronos Agency. How are you doing, Joshua?
Thanks for having me, Keith. I'm good.
Awesome.
It's a late night out here in Singapore. It's always a pleasure to be on.
Well, what time is it over there?
It is currently 11 p.m., but I'm pretty used to taking late night calls. In fact, 60% of our clients are actually based out of the US, although myself and my team are based out of Asia. So we're pretty used to the time differences.
So what is Kronos Agency?
We have been through a couple of evolutions over the years, and today we're a lifecycle marketing agency. That means we help high growth direct-to-consumer e-com brands scale profits with email, SMS, and mobile push marketing. And we're a global team of 80 people that acts as basically an extension to our clients' businesses. We're a full-service retention marketing agency. And I'm proud to say this, 90% of our business is built off referrals. Clients and partners love us. And that's kind of how we've grown so quickly over the years.
Wow. The fact that you've been able to grow your business this far by referrals is really great.
It's definitely a huge compliment to the work that we have done.
So I do have some questions about Kronos Agency, but I'll save those for a little later. Let's get first into the nitty-gritty. How did you get started? What is the history of Kronos Agency?
Ooh, all right. Here's the start of the agency. It was never meant to be an agency per se. Kronos was actually launched in a dorm room, and that was back in 2017. And interestingly, in October of 2017, I was at a point in my life where I was kind of nearing my breaking point. My business at a point in time was brand new. It wasn't exactly an agency. It was just kind of like a one-man consultancy type of thing. And I have landed my 6th client in just 2 short months. Very thankful for that. But the problem is that I was also a full-time university student at the National University of Singapore with a full-time internship where I was working 9 to 5. So I was waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, working all the way till 11 p.m., trying to keep up with basically everything.
Wow.
That's my start. Yeah,
that's crazy.
I knew at that point in time that I couldn't do this myself. It's not something that an inexperienced business owner, let alone a marketer, could do himself. So I called up a good friend of mine, Lewis. He was my elementary school classmate. We've known each other since we were like 7, 8 years old. And I always knew that he had a knack for business and operations. He was a much more detail-oriented person than I was, and much better at endurance and persistence than I was as well. I'm more of a big picture. I'm naturally very curious, but he complimented me on a lot of these aspects. And I called him up and I told him about this thing that I was building and that it could be interesting. And along the way, I was picking up new skill sets that I could, pass on to him, and we could build this thing together and see how far we could go. And that was how we got Kronos started, basically.
Wow. So at what point were you like all in? You know what I'm trying to say? Like, it seems like when building a business, it usually starts as a thought, and then you're working on the side to like pay for the bills and to put food on the table. But at what point was the tipping point for saying, hey, this is an official agency. We're a business now?
That's a great question, Keith. And I think it was a gradual process. There wasn't exactly a one instance or event that kind of was the tipping point. But I recall quite clearly when we hit our first financial milestone, which was to generate $10,000 in revenue per month. That was in 2017. That was our biggest goal. And we hired our first employee with that money. And naturally, you can exactly do a lot with $10,000 as a business. So moving into 2018, and the business was still growing, and we ended up hiring more employees, and we built a team remotely from the beginning to save on rental costs, and at the same time to kind of build an environment and a work culture that we would want to work in, ideally, basically, like kind of like a personal utopia of a work culture that we wanted to work in. And yeah, at the point in time when we hit our first 10K in revenue, that was when I told Lewis that, you know what, this is not a side project anymore. We got to take this seriously. I think there's potential to grow this into a career that we could embark on post graduation. And that was exactly what happened in 2019. May of 2019, we both officially graduated from school, from university. But at that point in time, we had a full-fledged business. When we left school, we had a team of about 30 employees, and it was crazy.
Wow. I wish I graduated college with a business and 30 employees. That's great.
It was great, but lots of trade-offs and sacrifices along the way that we made consciously, intentionally. We said no to a lot of different things and different opportunities that came along the way in order to make this work. Yeah, super thankful to be able to do what we've done.
Wow. Well, let's kind of get into the nitty-gritty here, because the business, or the story you just told, was like a really happy one. Well, what's the dark night of the soul of the business, or even your personal life? What's your poop moment?
Ooh, there are so many. There are just so many. All right, let me break down a few. Let's see. When we had to fire our first employee.
Whoa.
That was tough. I mean, as someone who's inexperienced, not just in business, but in the working world, like completely, we didn't exactly know how to approach that. Like, we knew that we gave this ex-employee sufficient time and space to improve upon like certain key metrics that we were expecting him to deliver upon, and he was underperforming consistently. And we came to a point where we had to make a tough decision for the sake of the business and for the sake of survival. So I remember being really, really, really sad for a long time, for a couple of days, because I felt like it felt like I failed that person, not bringing the best out of them, and not creating an environment where this person could shine, and perhaps putting him in the wrong place in the first place. And I remember we had to, and we didn't have any mentors or people we could tap into back then. It was just Lewis and myself. So we relied on Google. We actually Googled, how do you fire someone? What do you say? What's the process of doing that? And it was funny thinking about that today, but it was pretty real. That was a pretty poopy moment.
So what's the gold that came from that situation?
The biggest takeaway, the biggest goal that we took from that was knowing to be careful with our hiring process. And now we know to hire slow and fire fast. Putting people in the right place from the get-go is what we try to do today. That's why we take our time with interviews and assessments, and we make it a point to do reference checks and making sure that we're absolutely 100% certain that this person is going to perform in their role. But yeah, it sounds simple right now. I mean, it's common knowledge, but it did take us that experience and a couple more others to really embody and understand what that truly means in practice.
Wow. Hire slow, fire fast. That's great advice for any entrepreneur.
Absolutely. It might, at that point in time, we were excited. The business was growing and we were just in a hurry to just put someone in the seat, just put a butt on the seat to make sure that there's at least someone there, a body that's making things happen. But in the long run, even in the midterm, it just created a little bit more harm than good.
Wow. So thanks for sharing that story with us. Now, kind of flipping into more of your business. I did a lot of research on you. I noticed that you say more often than not that email marketing is not dead.
Mm-mm.
So explain that to me. How is email marketing not dead?
Email often comes as an afterthought. Not so much anymore today, but when we first started out in 2017, that was kind of still in the I guess earlier stages of the Shopify ecosystem exploding and e-commerce as a result of that. And a lot of people were just not taking email seriously. But when we looked into the stats and the data, email actually accounts for anywhere from 20 to 30% additional margins compared to any other marketing channels, which makes sense. When you're marketing through email, you're essentially saving on costs on ads, on your CPA, and things like that you just don't have to worry about when you're running a strong, solid email program. There are kind of curveballs that's thrown at us all the time. With the iOS 15 update that's coming this fall, email privacy features are going to be a huge thing. So for people who don't know what's going on there, basically what that means is now Apple Mail app users have the option to cloak their not exactly identity, but IP address, as well as trackers that indicate to softwares like Klaviyo, the t-shirt I'm wearing, and other ESPs, email software providers, that this recipient has opened that email. We will no longer have any reliable data around open rates anymore. And because Apple Mail users account for according to Litmus, it's about 46% of all email openers in the world, it's going to be significant enough to kind of just kill open rates as a metric, as far as we understand so right now. And my team is working on a couple of new strategies to kind of counteract that and work around those limitations. Yeah, it's just one of a little setback that could really change the way that we do things. But it doesn't mean that email is no longer valid from a user's standpoint. We still rely on the email for communication all the time. That's how I ended up on Poop2Go. So it's a part and parcel of our daily lives, and I don't think it's going away anytime soon.
That's great. And thanks for updating me about the email updates. So what, if you don't mind us diving into the curveball being thrown at you up ahead, well, what is your team trying to do to combat it?
There are a couple of things. Number one, on a strategic level, just spending the time that we have before the update comes to really understand the segments that we have in our clients' stores and what drives behavior, what people prefer, and kind of compiling as much information as we can today. And we've been doing this since day one. We actually kind of hold a repository of insights and A/B test results from every single brand that we work with to thoroughly understand what exactly drives a behavior, a conversion event for specific segments of customers. And the more you're able to kind of extract that and build a case and story, or rather a playbook for your brand, the better equipped you're going to be going into kind of the blind zone. And that's number one. But going into iOS 15 and beyond, we're looking at creating alternatives to to things that rely on the open rate metric. For instance, segmentation that indicates engagement. How do you know if your customers or your subscribers are still engaged with what you're sending them now that you don't know if they have opened up your emails or not reliably? One way to, as a proxy to understand that, would be to look at other metrics, including clicks, click rates, place order rates, add to cart rates, product page views, as well as active on-site measures. And all these metrics are still available. And I think that just relying on these additional metrics to kind of measure out segments that are highly engaged and not engaged would still be pretty valid and still very useful. That's as far as I have gathered thus far, but I'm pretty sure we'll come up with new ideas along the way.
Yeah, there's definitely time out there. So part of email marketing is the copyright. Do you have like a copywriter that you've hired, or do you do the copyright yourself, or like how did all that come about?
So at the beginning, it was I was pretty lucky that I came across copywriting as a skill set. I've built that skill set very early on in my journey, just purely out of need, because I couldn't afford a copywriter. We couldn't afford hiring one, and we just had to pick up that skill set ourselves. So at the beginning, both Louis and I were copywriters, designers, email integrators, specialists, and tech support and account manager all in one. And obviously that wasn't the most efficient or effective way to run a business, nor to create success for our brands. But today we have a specialized team of copywriters from different parts of the world. And we realized that there are still little nuances that apply to certain regions just because you grew up there, and that you just cannot replace with someone who doesn't come from that market. And because our clients are largely global and they sell to different markets all the time, so we found that really helps a ton.
Awesome. So you mentioned that there's some things that are meant locally, but let's get into like some advice on copywriting. So for our audience, we have mostly entrepreneurs, maybe some people who want to go global. What are some like international copyright laws, quote unquote, that these people can start following today, that they can just increase their business and hopefully one day end up working with you so they don't have to do their own copyright?
I'll talk about a few things on that. And bear in mind that I'm definitely no expert on this topic. And I actually lean on internally on our specialists on things like that, and externally tons of resources available. Harmony Brothers University, great resource as well. Just shout out to you guys. But I'm just going to look at the high level principles that really helped when I was writing my own copy, and what I've kind of observed internally as well with our most successful clients. Simple is key. That's number one. Simple is key, and good copy doesn't have to be complex nor long. That's often a misconception that I had to really drill down in my own head sometimes. So simple is key. Simple is good. Number two, the way a copy sounds or how it seems don't necessarily matter as much as its results. So if a copy might seem bad to a person or an individual, it doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're not the person paying for the products, the end consumer. So that is basically saying, think from the end consumer and user and reader's point of view, and create copy that would appeal to that person versus what appeals to you. Those are two biggest principles that I've taken away. Resources, books, I read a ton of books that helped me a lot in copywriting and learning the craft of copywriting. My number one favorite is and has always been Breakthrough Advertising by Gene Schwartz. It's a little bit more than just copywriting, but I think it lays out the fundamental principles of what good marketing looks like and what good copy would stem from. Oh, and a cheat code, Hemingway Editor. I believe it's a free app. Hemingway Editor. Hemingwayapp.com. It just makes your writing so much clearer, cleaner, and just bold. I love it. It's so easy to use and it's free. I just cannot understand why it's free.
Oh man, that's great. There's a lot there for our audience to take away from. Where, I guess we're in the final questions right now. Where can our audience find you? What platforms are you most active on? How can they get in touch with your business?
Yeah, for sure. If you'd like to connect with me, I'm available on most socials. It's just Joshua Chin. On Facebook especially, I'm pretty active there. LinkedIn as well. Or you can email me at joshua@kronos.agency. That's CHRONOS.agency. Or you can go to the website, kronos.agency, to learn more. We got a ton of resources as well. We give out tons of free content. We have a dedicated marketing team just putting together our best insights internally and just putting it out there to the world. And so that's the best way to get to know us.
Great. Awesome. To our audience, if you liked whatever Joshua Chin said, make sure to go check out Kronos Agency. For those of you who learned something from this podcast, make sure to put it in the comments below and make sure to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you on the next one.